and welcome to Look Down There, the show where we talk about all the things we don't talk about. I'm your host, Michelle Amore. Today is our last episode of season 2, and I could not think of a better guest to have than my guest today. My guest today is a sex educator and content creator for one of my favorite Instagram accounts, Clitoriscious. They are very passionate about spreading the word about the clitoris, as well as making good sexuality education available to all people all around the world. Please welcome my guest today, the mastermind behind Clitoriscious, Sydney Harris. Hi, Sydney.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. So I've been following your account ever since I started this podcast about a year ago, and always knew I wanted to have you on as a guest. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I feel so honored. That's so sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
I when you reached out to me, I was so excited because I follow you and I just I looked more into like what you do and what you've done and like your art and just the amazing stuff you do. So like I'm such a big fan of you as well. So
Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
yeah.
Well, what gave you the idea to start Clitoricious and even just the name? Like the name is really fun to say too.
Yeah. So I remember I started it in when I was living in Philadelphia and I was actually on my way um back to Boise, Idaho, where I live now. And I was kind of like I had kind of quit grad school because I just wanted to do something different and I was having some mental health stuff going on. And I remember I came up with the idea of creating like a like a sex ed page because I was studying human sexuality at the time. I've been studying this subject for like a decade, yeah, like forever. And so I just am really interested in the topic and all of this knowledge that I had kind of like cultivated in my brain and like just um it started making me feel like a little bit not crazy, but like I felt frustrated that I couldn't like get this information out to more people because I felt like it was really important because I felt like the lack of sex ed I had really impacted my life and I really felt passionate about kind of preventing those negative experiences and negative feelings I had about my body and just the lack of knowledge I had about my body. Like I didn't want other people to go through that. And I had never seen I had seen a couple like sex ed pages on Instagram and they were so enlightening to me. And I remember like I saw someone had posted an image of like the full structure of a clitoris and I'd never seen an image like that. I had no idea. And I had just started grad school, like studying human sexuality, and had no idea that the clitoris was like is expansive and like it's a huge organ. It's cool. And so I just kind of became obsessed with it and I I really liked the song Fergalicious growing up. So I that's literally how it happened was I had the song Fergalicious stuck in my head and I was kind of thinking and I'm kind of a musical person. I like making up jingles and songs and like just I'm constantly singing. Um and it just like clicked in my brain like as I was kind of thinking about this page and everything and I was like, "Oh, like clitoricious." I also thought of like delicious or like something that ends in shus, like just it seems like pleasing to me. Like it's something that I feel like pleasure is kind of involved in like the name of it as well. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like thought of the name and then I went with it and I didn't look back. And people a lot of people told me they didn't know how to pronounce it at first, which is understandable. Um, but then people started picking up on it and yeah, it just became a thing.
Yeah, well, now I'm hearing Fergie say clitoricious.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah, you could
yes.
make a whole remix
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Sydney, I have your project, your next project.
I did just start a TikTok account finally. So, well, I already had one, but I just started creating TikTok. So maybe
Okay.
that's my next TikTok.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess you just have to send it to me personally because I'm not on TikTok.
Okay.
I know we were just talking about social media beforehand and
Yeah.
ooh, so I just can't bring myself to TikTok, but I'm like, should I? Should I?
It
Ugh.
took me a really long time to get there. Like I was like, I can't deal with another social media app. Like I'm already on too many. And then I gave in and yeah.
Yeah. Well, my Twitter was just stolen from me, so
Mhm.
perhaps I could use another
Yeah, maybe
outlet.
you could go to TikTok then.
Oh, no, man.
It's honestly
My
kind of
friends
overwhelming, like
would
when you go
freak
on
out.
there. Yeah, like I was overwhelmed like the first like couple weeks I like got on TikTok. Like I would go on for like a minute and then I'd be like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
yeah, but then like the algorithm starts to pick up on the things you like and you're like, oh no. And then you start seeing more of the things you like. So
I love it. You just, oh no.
and
Oh no.
then you're just on
Uh,
there for hours. So
yes. So, okay. So you have really just like been not, you don't just focus on the clitoris, but I mean, you talk about a lot of other things. But
oh
today I
yeah.
really want to talk about the clitoris because it's not something that we really do talk about. And for some reason, like you were saying, there's not enough information about it. It's
Hmm.
good that all this stuff is being unsheathed, as it were.
Hmm.
But why do you think that the truth about the clitoris has been hidden for so long?
Mm, that's a great question. Yeah, it's super interesting when you like look into like the history of the clitoris and just like the fact that it's been discovered and rediscovered many times over history, and it wasn't until like pretty recently like that like Helen O'Connell like kind of did her research on it, and I believe that was in 2005, I want to say. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I
um
mean, very recent.
it was very like yeah,
Yeah.
like in our lifetime sort of thing, and it's like it like I don't know why, I don't know why necessarily it's been like hidden, but like I can kind of guess that like I mean not for great reasons. Like obviously like the clit is like a source of pleasure for a lot of people who are women or people who are, then have female anatomy or however you want to say it. And I just think that like people when it comes to like female pleasure or anything to do with that, like people are just uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. Hmm.
And just female sexuality has been just like denied for so long throughout history and at different parts of history. And it's just yeah, for a lot of reasons, but like I don't know, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. I think pleasure is very scary.
Yeah.
And when someone can be in charge of their own pleasure,
Hmm.
where does that leave others?
Right.
Mostly men, mostly
Hmm.
patriarchy. What is their function then, if not to kind of lord over us and
Hmm.
our pleasure, how we give and receive it. Although I don't think that our receipt of pleasure has been really valued, right?
Hmm.
So, like
Yeah.
when we discover our bodies and we discover our own pleasure, suddenly we're empowered in a totally new way,
Hmm.
right? So, just like you, I didn't know the clitoris was like all wishbone shaped and like had all these parts and but knowing that empowered me because I was like,
Right.
oh, well, okay. Then there was like new avenues to explore for pleasure or like things clicking like, oh, well, yeah, well, that's why that feels good.
Hmm.
Like, okay, like I get that. And just kind of knowing, I think, I think there was maybe there's part of me in the past who thought, like, oh, I don't want to know all about the anatomy because then that takes the sexy out of it. But
Hmm.
it's not true at all. It's
No, yeah.
quite the opposite. It's like the more you know, the more you grow, right? Isn't that the saying?
No, yeah, it
The
totally
more
is.
you glow, let's say
The more you
that. Like,
glow, I love that.
yeah, the more you know, the more you glow because you know the right buttons to push and you know what's happening and just to have that kind of autonomy, is very sexy.
Oh yeah, totally. I agree fully. Yeah, I feel like I've become like so much more empowered and like confident in my sexuality the more I know about my own anatomy, which yeah, it does seem kind of silly that you're like when you make it, I don't know, but like that's why I love like creating content about the clitoris and like doing different artwork about it and kind of making it fun or silly and inviting because um it makes it less clinical, I think, too. And like you're like, no, this is like a really cool part of my body that I should be celebrating and not being ashamed of or anything like that. And it's just, yeah, it's super cool. It's super cool to just know more about the body.
What are some myths that you've busted during this time?
During the clitoriscious time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just generally.
Yeah. Just in my life.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I've done like a few posts on like just like clitoris myths in general. I think one of them that's like I don't know if it's a myth or not, but like it's a well-known statement that like the clitoris has 8,000 nerves or nerve endings or whatever. And then people make like memes about that and stuff like which is like that was actually based on like a study of like cows, not humans, which I find fascinating. And that just kind of goes to show that like it's not that it could still be true. We don't know, like I don't, but also like it just shows that we have not done enough research on the actual clitoris, like in like currently or like I've looked at my brother's like medical textbooks because he's a doctor and there's like pages and pages about like the internal structure of like the penis and like what it looks like when it's like the inside of it and all the different structures of the penis and like all this way more detail than like the actual clitoris. Like I think there's like a little paragraph about the clitoris or something, which is just fascinating. So anyways, that was kind of a tangent, but so there's a myth. So that myth I think it just it's I think it's cool that like the we know the clitoris probably does have lots of nerves and like lots of sensations because like obviously we know that because like we've yeah but there still needs to be a ton of research done on it and more exposure and especially in like medical textbooks and there's lots of people on Instagram doing that work too.
hmm And the clitoris, we're always told that it's just there purely for pleasure, but I
Yep.
think it serves a purpose as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
what's the function of the clitoris?
Yeah, so yeah, that's another kind of myth that I see a lot of the time is like the clitoris is the only organ of the human body that is solely for pleasure and which is like it's like a beautiful thought and like but also like I find it personally more empowering to kind of know that or think about it in the way that like not that like sex has to be about reproduction, which obviously we know it doesn't. Because sex you can have sex for so many reasons. But the clitoris, there have been like certain studies that show like the clitoris does help with like conception or like it like the way it like spasms and like things like that like it actually helps like conceive a baby if that's what you're going for so but that's not also like that important but I think that it shows that like if we focus more on the clitoris like in general like it will become more engorged just like a penis will like the more you arouse and stimulate a penis like the harder and more erect it gets and more pleasure sensations you'll like be likely to feel. So it's kind of like, I think thinking of it as a pleasure center, but also something that's like very vital to who we are, and like, and it's also just like an important organ on its own, like, and I think sometimes people will take it the wrong way when you say like it's just for pleasure. Then they're like, people who don't think that women's pleasure, or people with clitoris's pleasure is important, they're just going to take that and be like, well, I don't care about pleasure, so I'm not going to pay attention to the clitoris. But so it's not, it's almost like, I think it's important to be like, yeah, well, the clitoris is also important for other reasons, and maybe that will help bring more attention to it, and also maybe that will help get it into the textbooks if that's what we have to do. If people see it as vital to reproduction, then maybe we can get more exposure and research on it. But also, like, I don't know what price that comes with.
Right. Yeah. And you were just talking about the cow's clitoris. And so then I could just kind of made a connection like, oh, well, like do cows have clitori?
Yeah.
Because they're like, that's their pleasure center. Like what, like it
Yeah.
must serve like a function, right?
Right.
And
Right. But there's not enough research on that. And there's so many people that like agree and disagree about certain things about that. So it's, and I think all these disagreements are coming from the fact that we haven't been able, like, no one's done the actual research.
yeah. Well, let me tell you a quick thing. I had a guest here on this podcast, the author of Raising the Skirt,
Oh
Catherine
yeah.
Hesselage. Yeah, so she writes about hyenas and their clitoris, and they give birth through their
I
clitoris.
saw someone post about that. That is such a mind-blowing
Yeah.
fact. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
So, that is definitely a function. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
that in itself is really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
because, and I've heard, isn't it like really dangerous for them to give birth too?
Yes.
Like,
Yes. Yes.
oh,
Yeah. But
it's so fascinating. Yeah,
yeah.
I think the account Clitorally the Best just did a post on uh like genitalia and animals or something like that. Or
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to check that out. But
Yeah. I mean, it's really great that we know where the clit is and we're talking about the clit,
yeah,
but it's really important to know that you can't just like go at it. Like you can't just like start pressing the button and like
yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm a very sensitive person and I feel like throughout my cycle, it can be more sensitive or less sensitive, like depending on where I am in my cycle is something
Oh,
that
for
I'm
sure.
just noticing
Hmm.
now at 41. uh
Yeah,
but
I'm
yeah.
just figuring that out now. Like,
Mhm.
still not really. Like, when you said that, I'm like, I should pay more attention to that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is something that really connected me to my cycle was just getting off birth control and being
Oh, for
like,
sure.
oh, because I got on birth control pretty quickly.
Hmm.
Um, from like I think I was on it for almost 18 years. So I didn't really know what my body wanted to naturally do until 6 years ago or so,
Hmm.
you know. So yeah, every month is like a new discovery. That's my discovery for this month.
That's fun. Yeah, I have an IUD right now, and so like I feel like I'm really out of touch with like a lot of my body stuff, like because I just don't have a period and in general, so I don't know, but I still get like period symptoms, so it's interesting.
Oh, really? Oh
Like
no.
I don't know, I get like cramping sometimes. I don't know if that's just like because it's like has like the hormones in it or whatever.
Mm.
I don't know enough about that. I know I should, but
Yeah. Um, I want to ask you about your jealousy because I share this with you when I read this on your Instagram
hmm.
that your jealousy towards other women kept you from loving them.
Mm.
And I feel that very hard. Tell me about that for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So like growing up, I didn't know that I was queer, or like any of that. Like I just I just assumed I was straight by default. And I just remember like growing up, like the people around me would always be comparing like girls in my class to each other, or just like it always seemed like there was so much competition among the women and the girls that were like in my life and in my like my peer group. And I remember that like anytime I thought a woman was like really, or a girl or anyone was like really beautiful for like because they were really smart or really kind or just like a beautiful person in general, like I just remember twisting those feelings into like, oh, actually I hate this person, and like I'm gonna talk shit about this person because they seem so perfect. And like I was jealous. I was like I thought that like I couldn't tell the difference between like how people have said wanting to be someone or like wanting to be with someone. I just really conflated those feelings. And because I didn't think that queerness was an option, so I thought that like anytime it's sort of it's similar to a lot of emotions, like how I do this with my anger. Whenever I feel really sad, or if I'm grieving or going through something really difficult, I just get angry on the outside.
Mhm.
And it's like, I think it's kind of like human nature to just like we twist
It's
these
a
things.
coping
Yeah, it's a coping thing.
when you're feeling vulnerable to be angry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a way I was coping with this natural queerness I had inside me. Like it was like a way for me to um distance myself and detach it and make it seem less real. And I think that really was damaging. And I think it made me it made it really hard for me to have solid even like friendships with women a lot of times, and just like connections with other women. And because I always felt like, and I think it's something the patriarchy does, is pit women against each other. And then but women do it, like we get sucked into it, and so we do it to each other. And it's just a cycle of like, and now that I've kind of realized that, like I've had amazing relationships and connections with women that I've never thought I was capable of. And I I think a lot of it also went into like my ability to be intimate with my friends, and how I was uncomfortable with that because I always associated intimacy with sexuality or being sexual. And I know that's kind of different, but like it's in a similar vein that like we just, as humans, a lot of times like I feel like we just are lacking that connection and those opportunities for connection, because we're afraid of vulnerability, like you said. And it's hard, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that. That didn't really start to heal for me until I became comfortable, truly comfortable in my body and
Mm-hmm.
in my sexuality and in loving my vulva. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was it. I feel like because I hated my vulva, I hated all the other vulvas and everything that surrounded the vulva. Like
Yep.
I did not like, I preferred being around men. Like I didn't really have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
girlfriends. Yeah, so that definitely like affected, or I did at one point because I also taught burlesque. So then I was suddenly surrounded by a ton of women
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Um, but I was like really careful about who I let into my space,
Yep.
you know. But I can still think back and see interactions were like tinged with this kind of jealousy or feeling threatened or, stuff like that. It would really, didn't like release for me until probably 4 years ago, to be
Hmm.
honest, where when I like finally came to grips with myself and my
Mm.
body and like and admitted what I, the feelings that I had and people I was attracted to and like, yeah, that really opened things up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said about like loving your vulva, that absolutely is so true. And how we're kind of taught to like not love our vulvas. And so that definitely
It's
goes
ugly,
into,
it's dirty, it's
yeah,
smelly. Like I can remember these things from my mom,
yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
you want to like blame your mom, but like you
But then you're
can't
like,
really because
yeah.
it's
Because
how
then my mom,
she
I
grew
bring it up
up.
to my mom's like, well, my grandma, or like my mom, like, it's like,
Yeah, it just like the shame just keeps being passed down generation
right,
to generation. And so, it's great that we're stopping that here,
right.
and,
Hmm.
and building a whole new generation that's much more comfortable with their bodies and their sexuality. I mean, there's other issues going on for them that,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think it's such important work. And I think the thing that surprises me, that keeps surprising me, is that as much as I see this information, I'm like surrounded by sex and sexuality and eroticism all the time, all
Hmm.
day, every day. And so I forget that people aren't. that, like
Yep,
that
I do
people
that too.
still need this information and people
Yeah.
still need this healing. And I have to like remember, oh yeah, yeah, this is who I'm doing it for,
Hmm.
to reach those people that don't have like naked people around them all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to like start in different places depending on like that person's experiences or like their where they're at with their own sexuality. Like it's so I think that's like beautiful about the work that we do is, like we can meet people where they're at and um yeah, because sexuality is so complicated. And like
Mhm.
I every day yeah, I get more sucked into the world and I'm like, "Oh," and then I get surprised when I'll see a comment about or someone asking a question about something that seems so like trivial to me or something or like something that like I feel like everyone should know and I'm like, "No, that's such a silly thought for me to have. Like why there's no bad questions and like if you have a question about your body or just like I'm trying to think of a specific example of something I get a lot, but like a lot of people will ask me like is masturbation bad for you or like things like that. And I think a lot of that comes from just like the myths people hear and but yeah, I think it's so important the work that we do because I don't know. Sometimes when we're on Instagram, yeah, and like you just follow certain accounts that like all talk about sex, like it seems like this is just like common information, but there's still such a need for it in so many places.
Yeah.
I think there
Yeah.
always will be, probably,
Yeah. For sure. I mean,
just for the time being.
it's at once sad, but also like encouraging that,
Yeah.
we will continue to have jobs and messages and we can continue to meet people where they're at and change and focus and move with, the knowledge that people are being exposed to.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
that forces us to dig deeper and learn more and
Hmm.
continue on, right?
Yeah. And that's so true about what you said too about like it being sad too, because it's kind of like my therapist told me like he's like ideally I don't want a job, like I want everyone to not need mental health therapy, but like I mean that's just the state of the world we live in and like yeah, like ideally I wouldn't want to like have my job either, like and I've just been thinking about that a lot, like there's no really such thing as a dream job, like that's kind of a something we've been taught for a long time in this capitalistic world we live in, or not world, but society,
Yeah,
Um,
I've started thinking about it as fulfilling. What is
for sure.
something
What's
that I can do
fulfilling?
that's fulfilling? Because the dream, there's a comic, and I can't remember who said it, but like the she's like, the thing about living your dream is that you're awake the whole damn time. And it's like, fuck yeah. Like it's really hard, right? To
Yeah,
pursue passion. But
for sure.
um yeah, the word that's been in my head the past few weeks has been fulfillment. Like what's
I
the
like
thing
that.
that's gonna fulfill me and make me feel like alive and like
Yeah.
on fire um there's so many things. There's so
There's so
many
many
things
things.
that I
Yeah.
love and I'm passionate about. And I think that's the challenge for a person who's passionate is to focus, focus the fire.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
absolutely. That resonates with me so much. Like, I wish I could just every day just wake up and be like, okay, what do I feel like doing today? What am I passionate about in this moment? And just do it. And like, I wish I could just get like paid for that. That'd be sick. But like,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I like, we have to participate in some ways. Like, we have to, like, so I think it's so cool that, like, I am, like, both of us are so passionate about what we do. And we have like this fire in us, yet we still know that it's important to place value on the work we do because like we've done a lot of work to get to this point where we're able to like help other people even. So, and
Mhm.
I often forget that I have the worst imposter syndrome ever. Sometimes it gets in the way.
Okay, so here's my thought about imposter
Oh,
syndrome.
I'd love to hear it.
It's
Please
kind
tell
of, it's like a little tangent to this podcast, but it's
me.
something that has been on my mind
Yeah.
and something that I kind of like flipped a switch for me over Thanksgiving. Um, because family, right? So I was thinking, how I talk to you and how I talk to my students, or, if I'm doing interviews or whatever, like whatever it is I believe and I'm passionate about, like this kind of healing. Um, I can't talk about it with my family. I can't heal my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that drives me, but I think it's something that also um, might be the undercurrent of the imposter syndrome,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know, because I can't have these conversations in a real, like, meaningful way
Mm-hmm.
with the people, their family. I'm going to say, like, the people I'm close to, but the people I've known the longest, right?
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I think that, like, for me, I think that's like kind of where the undercurrent of feeling like a fraud might come from.
Hmm. That's fascinating. Yeah, I've never really heard it like framed like that.
Me
That's really
neither. It's
interesting.
just something I thought
Yeah,
of like recently, and I'm kind of playing around with, like, is that, I
totally.
feel like that resonates with me. So I
Yeah,
just wonder if, like, maybe that resonates with other people too.
I totally feel that. I think, I mean, yeah, like I love my family and the people around me and the people I surround myself with, but like I don't know, like they also have like expectations of me and that just comes with I think oh sorry, my dog's barking again. It
Mhm.
comes with just like relationships and like um I think that I sometimes just like internalize those expectations and I kind of blow them up out of proportion and I feel like if I let people down or don't live up to a task or not doing the best or not being productive every day or something like I'm failing at something or and I think yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my mantra for 2022.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I haven't revealed this yet.
Oh.
You're the first one who's hearing it.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
Um, Live free. That's my mantra. Live free. Live free of judgment, live
Mhm.
free of fear. Do what it is that will fulfill you.
I love that.
That's it. So every year I try to have a theme, and this year's theme was pleasure,
Hmm.
and next year's theme is live free. So
That's
that's
beautiful.
that's mine.
I might have to take that from you too and
Take it.
just
I want people to take
spread
it.
it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
I want to
yeah.
tell the world. Yeah. And I will take my own
Empowering.
advice too. Um,
Hmm. No, we can hold each other accountable for it. Be like, hey, are you living free this year?
yeah, baby. Okay. So final question. What does confidence mean to you?
Yeah, I love that question. Because I feel like confidence, it used to be this thing that I thought, like when I was in high school, I thought that like confidence was like something all the cool people had, that like it was just like inherent to them, like they were just born confident, and it was like this thing you could possess, or and like you just had it because you were just like gifted with it or something. And I think over time my views have really changed about that, and I think I kind of define confidence more in like in almost like an abstract sort of way, and like I can find confidence in certain things in my life, or like I don't have to feel like I can feel confident in different parts of my day, but I don't have to wake up and be like, I am confident today. And like I think of it sort of like that toxic positivity, or like anything that I don't think confidence is something that you can just like, I don't know. Now I'm thinking more about it, but like um
It ebbs and flows like
it
everything
yeah, it
else.
totally ebbs
Yeah.
and flows, and
It's
like
not like, when you think about self-love, that like you just love
yeah,
yourself all day, every day. Like,
yeah, like
no,
that's not helpful to people because it's not realistic.
it's not
So
real just because you don't, I mean, yes, you can love yourself all day, every day.
yeah.
However, just like as you would love someone else that is not you, you can
Hmm.
be mad at them, you can
Hmm.
be sad,
Yeah,
whatever, like, but you
totally.
could still have this underpinning of love, right?
Yeah,
So I feel, confidence kind of ebbs and flows like
it
that.
ebbs and flows, but I also feel like it's something that I've gotten better at. Like I feel like I'm confident more frequently than I have been in the past, and I
Mhm.
can count more times in a day that I feel confident than I used to. And I think that has to do with a lot of the work I've done in like just in therapy, and like on my own time when I'm just thinking about like just reflecting. I'm a very reflective person, and it's not always, sometimes it's kind of like what leads to me being really sad, and like, and that's not when I feel confident. But at the same time, like I used to be so socially anxious, and like I was so scared of people, and like I remember I would just like throw up in the bathroom every time I'd have to give a presentation, and like just things like that. And so I think my confidence, just like from that standpoint of just like being a human and like actually interacting with the world, and like being confident in the words that I say, and not constantly like I used to say something out loud, and then I would spend the next hour or so just kind of like thinking about what I had said and breaking it down, and being so hard on myself and being like, oh, I could have said it better. I could have said it this way instead. And so I think it's about confidence, also has to do with like being kind to yourself, and being easier on yourself, and just giving yourself a little bit of grace, and realizing that like there's so much nuance to life, and like you can say something out loud and be confident in it, and someone can tell you that thing doesn't like isn't true, or like that's they see it differently or something, and then your confidence gets like plummeted. But like I don't know, that's kind of the risk you have to take in life, and that's what I realized, like it's kind of like anything, like the more you do something, like the better you get at it. And like I something like this would have been so terrifying for me like a few years ago, just like talking to another human like on the internet. But like I don't know, I've gotten more confident with it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Same. Definitely. Practice definitely helps. But also, like you were saying, extending grace to yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and also extending it to others, right? And
Oh
I
yeah,
think I think that we
absolutely.
have very, very, very high standards and expectations for everybody to say the exact right thing
Yeah.
at the exact right time, especially if we have a platform or we have a voice or we have, a persona, right? Like people
Hmm.
expect this otherworldly level of perfection from,
Right.
you know, people like that. So, um, there's humans behind the posts, that's
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
thing.
I know. It's
Unless
hard.
it's a bot, but most of the time,
Yeah.
most of the time it's humans. So Sydney, tell us where we can follow you, what you have coming up, what's going on, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Clitoriscious. It's just the clitoris and then just, or I guess you could just think about it as fergalicious,
Yeah.
but clitoris instead, whatever works for you. You can also go to my website. It's just clitoris.com. I started a Patreon recently, so you can, if you go to my Instagram, there's just like a link in my bio that has literally all of my links to like ways you can support me and all of that. So I just kind of put it all in one place because I know that it gets confusing and it's just easier to have things there. But yeah, if you want to follow me and just maybe learn something about your body or just engage with my content, I love to ask my audience just questions and like their input because I feel like that's how I learn the most.
Mhm.
So I love interacting with people and getting people's input. So come join me. And I have a group chat on Discord. So if you're on Discord, you can do that, and we just have fun chats and we talk about queerness, polyamory, and we just support each other there. So yeah, I'm trying to think
Nice.
of anything else. That's all I got.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and closing out season 2 of Look Down There.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yes. And now, everyone, it's time for you to spread your legs and spread the love. Follow us, like us, share, subscribe, follow at Clitoricious, or you can follow me at Michelle Amore or at I Look Down There. It's like, what is it again? And remember that confidence comes from the bottom up. So grab a mirror and look down there. Happy Clitmas, everybody.
Happy Clitmas. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.